The weather is decent. It's like 69, 70 degrees. And everyone's asking me, bro, what's up with the bike? So I'm out here to put some miles on this thing. And I'm going to give y'all a first ride review. I would love to do like 30 miles and maybe like, I don't know, 1,200 feet of climbing. That way I could do some climbing and descending and kind of get a good all-around feel. But we'll just have to see how I feel once I get on this bike. But I have been hydrating. I had a bunch of carbs, so I don't know. We're just gonna get it done. I don't got a lot of daylight. When I get back, it's probably gonna be super dark, but I will pull the bike into the garage and I will give you a thorough review of my first ride impressions of the Chinese bike build. Stay tuned. What's up? What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. This is the video that's been crazy requested. I know people have been waiting on it. I'm sorry. I've been working on getting it together, but this is the first ride review of the Elves Falath. So let me give you a little bit of context about me. I'm a recreational cyclist, bro. I'm not a pro. I'm not a crit racer. I don't got no crazy FTP. I might get dropped on a group ride. Like, I'm just a regular old person. I just got into cycling, man. I used to be a runner. Running wasn't working out for me after so many years. Then I just fell in love with cycling. I love building bikes. I like uniqueness. I like trying something different. I just like having a dope product. You know what I'm saying? Like, I might not be fast, but I'm gonna be fresh, you know? So that's kind of like me in a nutshell as far as like the bike community, right? So the Elves, keep in mind the title of this video. This is the first ride review. There's gonna be more rides, there's gonna be more miles, and then some things may change left and right. Bottom line, up front, overall, I give the bike a solid 7, right? Solid 7. And right now you're hearing that number and you're probably like, what does that even mean? And I'm gonna tell you what it means. 7 is an average. It's an average based on 3 categories, right? These are 3 categories that I came up with. The first category, handling and confidence. Second category, speed, because this is an aero bike. And then the third category is bike feel. Once I added up all those 3 scores, divided by 3, the average came out of 7 out of 10. Am I disappointed with what I created? Or do I feel like buyer's remorse for the money I done spent? Let's find out. Category 1. Category 1, handling and confidence. To give you some context of this first ride, I rode 23 miles. I climbed 1,100 feet and my top speed was 37 miles an hour. The whole time I was riding the bike, I felt completely confident and safe on this bike. There was never a moment throughout this hour and 25 minutes that I felt like, man, this shit might fall apart. I never felt like that, right? The bike climbed very well. I felt like it tracked where I wanted to track. During the descends, I think the top speed I hit up to was like 37 miles an hour. I never felt like the bike wasn't going or wasn't reacting the way I wanted to react while I was descending. When I was cornering with the bike, wherever I pointed the bike and gave it power, that's where the bike went. So handling and confidence as a whole, I gave it an 8. Could it possibly get to a 9 or a 10? I don't know about 10 because 10 is like perfect all around, but I think it can get to a 9. And I think it's going to take me to fine tune some things like messing with my air pressure, because I've been riding my Trek for like the last 1,500 miles or so. And on my Trek, I've been riding 32 mil tires with latex tubes running like 60 PSI. So I kind of figured out what my air pressure is and how the bike reacts and how it responds to me the way I like to ride when I'm riding that. And I just feel like I haven't found that yet with the Elves, because like I said, this is the first ride review. But I think if I play with some of the air pressure and kind of figure it out a little bit, or maybe even change tires, because I went to the GP5000, I definitely think the bike can be at a 9. But right now, right out the gate, I give it a solid 8 out of handling and confidence. Category 2. All right, speed. I give the bike a 7 in speed. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this is one category that I was disappointed with the bike. And the reason why, and the only reason why, is because it's an aero bike, bro. It's an aero bike. It's supposed to be fast, right? The bike is quick, but it didn't stay quick. And I know it's kind of weird saying that, but let me explain it to you. When I give it the beans, the bike wants to go. It's like it wants to take off. It wants to go. But once I'm going, it's like I got to keep working to keep it going. I feel like the bike did not hold speed well, like not at all. And it's kind of weird because like, and I'm just comparing it to my Trek, because like I said, I've been riding my Trek like the last 1,500 miles. So when I ride my Trek, once I get to speed, it just goes, man. It just goes. And one of the things that I thought was really weird was when I was riding with my buddy Chris on the first ride, there was a part when we was going downhill and we were descending. And Chris is a bigger guy than me. I'm like 5'6", 175 pounds or so. Chris is probably like 6'2", maybe like 220, 230, something like that. We were on the hill, and normally when I'm doing any type of descending, especially like if I'm in a group ride, in a group ride, I'm always on the brakes. Like when I'm on my Trek and I'm in a group ride, I have to be on the brakes because the bike just wants to go, and I'm like always right on somebody. And usually like if it's just like a couple of us and we're not having too much group ride etiquette, I'll pull off to the side and I'll just take off. The Elves did not do that. I'm sitting here and we just having like a casual conversation, and the next thing I know, like he's just like pulling off. I'm like, damn, he taking off on me. So then I'm like giving it some power, and it's like I feel like I still could even catch up with him. And I'm like, wow, this is supposed to be like an aero bike, right? And then like as I'm riding, I'm thinking to myself, why isn't this bike faster, or why doesn't it feel faster than my Trek? Because all the things that I calculated in my head would make it feel like, or make it seem like the Elves would be faster. Like on the last video I did, I had the Elves and the Trek, and they were side by side. The Elves is significantly thinner than my Trek, right? Significantly thinner. On my Trek, I have 50 mil deep wheels. On the Elves, I have 60 deep wheels. And then here's another thing, right? The Elves is almost 2 pounds lighter than the Trek. So between the bike being lighter, being slimmer, and deeper wheels, you would think that it would be faster. Because the route that we rode, I ride these routes all the time, and on these on the hill descends, when I'm on my Trek, I can pretty much like not do nothing and hit like 39, 40 miles an hour, like almost every time. Like it's like I don't have to put no effort in, it just goes. But I was putting some effort in, and I think my top speed was like 37 miles an hour, you know? So I kind of felt a certain type of way about it. But then I was also telling myself, you know, maybe I'm just kind of like in my feelings because Chris is kicking my ass right now on this little descent. So, but what I did do is I came home and I pulled up some numbers from Strava, right? And I'm going to show you something on the computer, right? These are two kind of like almost mile segments, and it has some decline, some grade percentage, some negative grade percentage. And it shows like the speed and the power and the cadence and everything. And some of the data, like it really surprised me, but it kind of put a bigger thought in my head, like, yeah, maybe this bike is not that fast. So let me show you that. What this is data from Strava. And in here you can see it says like speed, power, cadence, and of course like temperature. But this is another thing too. This is the section. So it's 0.8 miles. It's negative 115 feet. And it's at a negative 2.5 grade, right? The data that I'm showing you, this isn't any like specific special data.
This data is from the first ride from the Elves, and then I got some data from the last time I rode my trek on this same route. Now, to make this 100% apples for apples, oranges for oranges, it would have to be the exact same spot. I should be trying to do the exact same thing, but that's not the point of this. I was just like, I think the bike feels slower to me. Let me see if I can find something that can either support my case or just let me know I'm crazy. So this is what I came up with. So anyway, back to the data. If you look at this, this is the data from the Elves. This is the data from the Trek. Now, the things that are similar is just this little 0.8. And this is just like 0.8 miles, right? But notice from the Trek data, it's negative 56 feet and only a 1.3 grade. So check me out. The Elves data. If you look at this data, right? Check out my speed all the way right here on the right. As you see my speed going up, I'm going downhill because I'm going at a negative 2.5. This right here is me putting out power. 71 watts, 177 watts, 182 watts, 207, 85. But this is me putting out power getting up to my top speed, which is 37.1. So right now, with me going 37.1 miles an hour, I'm putting out 225 watts at 101 RPM. And if you look at the top where it has that little selection spot, you'll notice it's at negative 115 feet. You know what I'm saying? The negative feet in the grade. 37 miles an hour, 225 watts. Now check this out. This is the data from the Trek, right? Notice right now, I'm at 19 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour, 21 miles an hour. But look at the power and cadence. I'm not doing nothing, bro. I'm just rolling. And granted, I don't know exactly what was happening before this, but when I was looking at the power before, I know I was not into like no large sprint or nothing like that going into this. And I'm literally just rolling, but the speed continuously goes up all the way to 39.9, and it still stays there for a good second. And this is me almost rolling to a complete stop. You know what I'm saying? But during this whole period right here, I'm not putting in no power. So I just kind of thought that was weird, right? Because like I said, when I was riding the Elves, there was a point when I was going downhill, and I think this is where it's at because I'm up here talking to my buddy Chris, and then he starts kind of pulling away. And when I say pulling away, he wasn't like sprinting or nothing. He hit the bike and him was just starting to pull away. I was like, man, let me give it a little gas. And then it was like, then he started pedaling and it seemed like he was getting away further. I was like, well, shoot, let me give it a little some power. And I felt like I couldn't even catch him, you know? And like I said, I didn't give a max effort, but still, if you look at this power right here, throughout this little 0.8 span, the most power I put out was 534 watts. Max cadence I put out was 101. And the top speed was 37.1 miles an hour. And then in this 0.8 stretch with the Trek, the most power I put out was 328, and that's way at the end. But even the 328, I'm at 77 cadence, so I know I was probably getting ready to go back uphill, and the top speed was 39.9. So like I said, to me, I felt like the Elves didn't hold speed well, and it kind of like didn't get up to speed too well. I felt like I had to put a lot of work in just to get something that I felt like I just got it from the Trek. But that's what I mean. I try to show y'all that with this little bit of data.
Bike feel, I give it a 6. I give it a 6. Yeah, I know. And let me explain. The bike rode harder than I expected. And some of you may be saying, like, bro, it's an aero bike. It's going to be kind of stiff. Look, man, I'm tracking. I'm going to give you some context to what I'm talking about, right? For the bike, I'm running the Continental GP 5000s, which is a kind of harder tire, but I'm rolling the Tubolito tubes. I had 28s, and I'm riding 75 PSI. the bike to me shouldn't have been as hard as it was. Now, was it uncomfortable hard? No, it just made me think about negotiating certain obstacles when I ran into them, right? Like if I seen a pothole in the road or something, I didn't even want to sit down. I kind of want to get out the saddle because it was kind of, the bike was kind of hard, man. There's some, that when we ride at, there's an area where there's like some old train tracks. And usually we would go over train tracks. I had to stand up out the saddle because the bike was like kind of hard. And the only thing I could kind of give it, the only way I can kind of compare it is like it's got to be like the frame, because I've had other bikes that didn't ride like that, and they were kind of like an aero bike. And to kind of give you some like a different analogy, it's like, let's say you got a lowered car. There's a difference between driving a lowered car with springs, and there's a difference between driving a lowered car with like a coilover suspension. And when I say coilover, I'm talking about a shock that's tuned for the spring, and then you got like 32 levels of dampering to adjust the ride feel. I feel like the Elves frame, like the carbon layup, just hasn't reached probably the R&D to give it the right tuned feel for what they're trying to deliver. Now, is it bad? It's just not, it's not bad. It was a little bit harder than I expected from an aero bike. You know, I just expected a little bit more. Also about the bike feel, like bike feel in general is like, how was I feeling when I was on the bike? Did I feel like, man, I want to ride this bike, I just want to go? I didn't get that thrill from the bike when I was riding it. Like aesthetically, when I would see my bike, it was just beautiful. Aesthetically, it was 10 out of 10. I'm like, I want to get on this thing and ride it. But when I'm actually riding it, I'm not gonna lie, a couple times I was like, I kind of wish I was on my Trek, because it just gave me a different type of ride feel, right? And to kind of give you some more context of ride feel, like when I got my first TT bike, I had a Cervelo P3. When I would ride that bike, I'd be like, okay, it's kind of cool, it's all right, but I never got like the big thrill from it. My dad had a TT bike, and he had a Fuji Norcom. Man, the first time I rode his bike, just the way the bike felt, I knew this was the bike. And when I say bike feel, I'm talking about his bike was like 2 sizes larger than mine. The saddle's not adjusted to me. I'm like hyperextending my knees every time I'm pedaling. But just the way the bike felt, it just gave me that feeling like, man, I want to ride this bike. And ever since I rode his bike, I was like on a mental journey, like, man, I got to find me a Fuji Norcom. I got to find me a Fuji Norcom. So I went on a search to find one. And then guess what? I found one. Soon as I found it, I took all my components off of my Cervelo, and then I sold that joint. And then I was riding the Fuji. And trust me, I had a badass P3, man. Like, I had it all done up, DI2, power meter, carbon chain rings, carbon wheels. Like, it was a nice looking bike. It just didn't give me that ride feel, right? But the Fuji did. Now, to take ride feel to a whole nother level, it's the summertime. Everybody's riding. We're doing these group rides. It ain't getting dark till like 9 o'clock. Everybody's rolling. We rolling fast. All of a sudden, all these people start bringing out these aero bikes. I'm like, yo, I want an aero bike. So I'm like, how can I get me an aero bike with the least amount of cost? So I told myself, I'm going to convert my TT bike to an aero bike. So that's what I did. I converted my Norcom to an aero bike, and man, it was beautiful. I got on that thing and it was fast. The first day I rode this bike, I crashed it. I crashed the dang old bike, man, because I'm riding this bike and the bike feels so good. I'm riding on this road that I normally ride. I'm coming to this intersection that I know, and I'm at like probably like 32 miles an hour. It's about to start sloping down. I start picking up the speed. I'm coming to the intersection. The bike felt so good, I didn't want to stop. Like, I just said, forget about my own safety. I'm going to go through this thing. And of course, I had this terrible crash and all this other stuff. And like, if y'all been following me like on my Instagram and stuff, you probably wondering like, why you never posted a TT bike? because I crashed the damn bike. That's why. But that's what I mean, though. The ride feel, the Elves didn't give me like that big spark like that. You know what I'm saying? And like, and y'all got me thinking about that dang on Fuji, man. And I love that Fuji so much that I bought another one. I literally just bought this bike today. Like, I spent like 5 hours out my day to go get this bike. That's how bad I wanted another one, man. It is the bike. But anyway, the Elves kind of didn't give me that super exciting feel. That's not to say that I might not need to make a couple changes to take the ride feel to the next level. Because I made a short the other day, and then I posted like me changing my stem setup. I was running a Tarmac SL7 stem. I want to say it was 110 long and a -12. I switched the stem, and I switched the stem to staying -12, but only 100. So I dropped 10, and then I switched to the Zip stem, and it's the Zip Carbon SL Sprinter stem. And there's a couple reasons why I did that, because that stem is very stiff and it's full carbon, but it's like good stiff, man. It's like that coilover suspension. I remember when I had that, when I was riding that stem before, when I was hitting bumps, the bike just felt different, like a good different. So I swapped that out. I went a little bit shorter. I dropped down a stack too, like I think 10 millimeters, and then I got that carbon stem. Also, I was waiting to get the saddle, this Burke Lapina. I think the Burke Lapina was a little too narrow for me, so I end up going to my Bontrager saddle, the same one that I got on my Trek, the same one I got on my trainer bike, and I put it on the Elves. So the next time I ride the Elves, it'll probably be a little bit different. But like I said, remember the title of this video. The title of this video is the Elves First Ride Review. This is 23 miles, 1,100 feet or so, right? This is just the first ride. There's going to be more rides, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to start feeling differently about the bike once I ride it some more, right? So, question. Do I feel like I wasted my money? No, I don't. Would I recommend this bike to somebody? Absolutely, 100%. Now, there's a caveat to that. If somebody came to me and said, "Hey man, would you recommend the Elves? Should I get one of those bikes?" I'm gonna say, yeah. I'm gonna have a follow-up question, and my question is, what are you riding now? If you're a person that's getting into carbon bikes, or you're coming from like a mountain bike or aluminum bike, you're gonna get the Elves, and it's gonna be a 10 out of 10 for you. Now, if you've been riding different bikes, maybe like some Tarmacs or some Canyons or some mid-level Treks, don't overhype what you're getting. You know what I'm saying? And then, like I said, I don't feel like I wasted money or anything like that. I don't feel like I got a bad product. For a full custom painted bike with a one-piece barn stem, $1,000, you cannot beat that. I am very, very happy with the quality of the product. That is not the issue. The whole reason why I built this bike, right? This was an experiment for me. And my experiment was, can I take a Chinese frame, build it up with similar or better components, and make something just as good or better than a known product that I already know I have? That was the experiment for me. And the answer to that is no. The bike, the Elves, is a badass bike, but it's not a 2021 Trek Amanda. It's not a Tarmac SL7. It's just not that. It's not a bad bike, but it's not a high-end bike. I think that the company in the whole has they have the space to take it to the next level. I just feel like they haven't had the R&D to create the product that they want to market. You know, because like from what I've been hearing with the wind space frame, for one, it's the T1500, right? They use they use the next level of carbon. I think if the Elves was using that level of carbon, the bike would probably feel a little bit differently. You know what I'm saying? Also, this is another thing too. My bike is a rim brake bike. I think if I had a disc, I would probably like it a little bit better because I'd have a wider rim, I'd have bigger tires, you know, latex tubes. It would just be a whole different ball game in general. Now, if Elves want to come out and send me a disc brake frame, I mean, I'll build it up with some top components, you know, just holler at me and let me know. But right now, out of the average of those three numbers, I give the Elves a solid 7, you know? But also with this experiment, this journey that I've been on, I ain't the only one that's been on this, right? My dad cycles as well. He also bought an Elves. He bought the endurance frame. And guess what? It's disc brake. Today, he had his first ride. I got to get his feedback. I love to get him on camera. I got a video that we did before. And so you can hear what his impressions of the bike. And to give you some context of things, Dad got the Fuji Norcom, which is a TT bike. He has a Fuji Transonic, which is a true aero bike. And he has a Trek Damani SLR, Pearl White, done up SRAM, all that other stuff. And Dad also did it right when he built his Elves too. He's got the, I think he's got some Barn Traeger Pro, Aeolus Pro 3s on there, Vittoria Corsa tires, and he's running SRAM Access. So it's pretty legit. It's a beautiful bike as well. I'm gonna throw some footage up there. So in conclusion, spend the money, man, if you really want it. I don't think you're going to be disappointed with the product. If you are into high-end things, I still don't think the Elves is a bad bang for buck, man. You just got to make a decision to figure out if that's what you want. This was the first ride review. 23 miles, 1,100 feet of climbing, and I think I put out a sprint, and I put out like 1,200 watts on the bike. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, more content coming soon. And I got a whole video I'm doing on this bike, man, like me getting this whole thing. I'm out.
Robb Armstrong.